All right, Mom and Dad, tell me if you can relate to this. You're scrolling through Facebook, you come across post after post from other parents showing off their kids' latest and greatest achievements. You might start comparing your children to theirs and maybe feel a little jealous. Be honest with yourself. Well, our next guest calls it compare and despair. Joining us now to talk about how to deal with that and get out of that rut is lifestyle coach Mary Ellen Gart. Hey, welcome back to the morning show.
Thank you for having me again. I'm so glad to be here.
We are voyeuristic. And you know what? I think more so than ever, we compare our lives to others. And that's not necessarily a healthy thing.
Well, it's really not. And we call it in the coaching biz compare and despair, because what happens is you start comparing your reality or your child's reality to this sanitized, tidy, social media ready version of someone else's life. And it really gets amped up on social media. I'm going to give you an example. You've just gotten off the phone with your daughter. She's exhausted. She's sick. She's stressed out with midterms coming up. And she's also told you this: oh, I might be failing math, but don't worry, I'm looking for a tutor. So you get on Facebook and you start scrolling through, and you think to yourself, I could really use a glass of wine with an Oreo chaser. You've been zapped with compare and despair. And is it any wonder? You have been comparing your reality with a highlight reel.
Okay, see, now that's the thing. We've got two different things going on here. You actually see your child's reality. You don't know the other person's reality. You know what they want you to know.
You're seeing a portion.
Yeah.
And what happens is we're seeing things like Susie got straight A's, or my son just got elected president of his fraternity, or my favorite, we're so proud of our daughter, instead of going to Panama City for spring break, she's going to go build houses for the homeless. Compare, despair.
All right, so how do you get out of that rut? What are some things you need to do?
Okay, first of all, first rule of coaching, pay attention. Know your tells. For me, cookies and wine, I just told you. You know, I start standing in front of my pantry looking for cookies. I'm an empty nester. If I'm looking for cookies, it's a problem. There's no cookies in my pantry anymore. So pay attention to what your tells are. If it's wine, cookies, maybe some bad TV, and pay attention to what goes on in your body. Maybe your stomach starts to feel bad, neck, know it.
So trust your gut reaction.
Absolutely. And recognize that you're comparing to a highlight reel, not to reality. And you and I have both had kids who've been freshmen, right? We know that freshman year isn't so much a highlight reel. It's kind of a little bit more like something from America's Funniest Home Videos. You know, it looks a little painful. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's hard to watch.
But it's also important that you recognize your child's successes, because the bottom line is a lot of times those successes are born of the, I'll use the word, quote, failures that they've had in life.
Absolutely.
They've learned their lessons.
And that's one of the coaching tools I use too, is you take that thought, which when we're dealing with compare and despair as it relates to our children, what it boils down to is this thought: my kid doesn't seem to be doing as well as everybody else is. And of course we know it's not true now, because we just said you're comparing your reality to highlight reel.
And you're also focusing on the negatives. And you say, you know what? Let's target the positives here.
Exactly. Turn the thought around. This is what's so important. And it's really important to give yourself some evidence for their success. What are they doing really well? What are you proudest of? How are they growing? And again, remember those failures that can turn into such positives and growth. What's really important here is this: our brains are like Velcro for negative, but they're like Teflon for positive thoughts. So you really have to work at paying attention to when you're having these thoughts and giving yourself that evidence for when it's going well and the ways that it's going well, especially when it feels like it's not going well.
And it strikes me, you know, you can apply this to your kids, but we can also apply it to our own lives.
No kidding.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.